Hi guys, I'm Drake York. Welcome to this edition of Dirt Talk with Drake York, and I'm here with legendary crew chief Randy V. It's good to have you.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's good to be here.
Today's show will be presented by Tommy Herseth's Vintage Race Cars, Bill McAnally Racing's Napa Auto Care, Hunt's Race World, and Pappenhausen Automotive. So once again, Randy V, legendary crew chief here on the show today. Randy, how were you first introduced to racing?
You know, it started, I think, 1981. Lived in San Jose. I was only 11 years old, and had some neighbors that raced super modifieds, which were a lot like sprint cars. They drugged me to my first race, and it was like love at first sight. I liked the cars and the chrome and the sound and everything else. I've been hooked ever since.
We know that you're mostly known for working on sprint cars. Have you worked on different type of cars?
Over the years, you know, I've worked on sprint cars, midgets, which was just a brief moment with midgets. Both my boys raced go-karts, outlaw go-karts, and stock cars. The first championship I ever won was with a team racing stock cars.
What drivers have you worked with, and who are you helping out now? I know Jason York, one of them. So.
Man, over the years it's been dozens of them. Your dad, Jason, both the Allard brothers, Jonathan and Stephen Allard. Most recently, Andy Forsberg, a young up and coming guy that hopefully people will be hearing about here in the next year or two. Skylar G, I worked with him at the Outlaw Swing earlier this year, and the list goes on and on. Paul McMahon, both the Kading brothers, Bud and Tim, Craig Delansky, and numerous local guys.
How long have you been working on sprint cars as a crew chief?
30 years.
Wow.
Close to it, off and on.
It's like everybody picks the number 30. You got Back to the Future, and then you're working for 30 years on a sprint car.
Well, the sport is either really young guys nowadays or really old guys like myself or your dad.
You're not that old.
We feel old.
How many championships have you won? I know you've won one with my dad, but who else have you won a championship with?
The very first championship I was ever a part of was 1992 at Silver Dollar with a guy named Kevin Silk. We raced what became the late model cars. And then my first sprint car championship was 1998 with Tim Kading at Chico once again. And then I've been fortunate enough to win with your dad, and won a championship in Marysville with a guy. So there's been a few there. I think it's 5 championships over the years. I've never been really a big guy that's a fan of point racing.
I know you've been out to Australia to help out a team. What was that experience like for you working out with the Aussies?
Well, to be honest with you, I've never had the opportunity to go to Australia. I've been close and had some issues pop up with home or health or things like that. But my son spent 5 years in Australia, and I got to live kind of vicariously through him, and he's worked with some really great teams, and it was a good deal. And it's one of those things I wish I would have done when I was younger, but it's kind of the one that got away.
You were talking about how you were a crew chief for 30 years. Do you have a favorite season as a crew chief?
I was thinking about that. I'd have to say one particular season, not necessarily, but I'd say any season. I say I don't like point racing, but any season that I've been fortunate enough to win a championship those seem to be the highlight seasons.
How much has racing changed since you first got involved?
Oh, quite a bit. I'm sure there's some other fellas that are a little older than me that can really tell you the big difference in the changes. As far as the cars pretty much look the same as when I first, became involved. But the money has just gotten unbelievably out of control as far as the engine costs, and you have to have a good shock program, tires. The cars are, like I said, the cars are pretty much the same, but the engines are astronomical.
Well, your two sons, Austin and Trace, you were talking about those guys. Did either one of them ever win a championship in the outlaw car ranks?
My son Austin won a championship at Cycleland Speedway in 2000.
Wow.
We had a really, really fun year. I think we ended up winning 50% of all the races that we were in.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, you fans may not know this. My dad, Jason York, won the Silver Dollar Speedway Track Championship in 2000, like you were talking about. And Kyle Larson won his first ever race in a box stock at Cycleland Speedway in 2000 as well. So there's your facts for the day, for you Jason York and Kyle Larson fans. Were there any challenges between your sons and working on a sprint car?
Yeah, there was. That in 2000, I kind of had, it worked out to where I just raced Chico Friday nights, and then so I was free Saturday nights at Cycleland with my son. But then after that, I started hooked up with a couple of different teams, and so it took me away from being with them all the time. But my sons were pretty self-sufficient as far as being able to do their thing, and we had some good friends. Alan Helwig and Grandpa George helped Austin out pretty significantly. And I think by then Trace wasn't racing anymore, so he was tagging along with me to the sprint car races, which is what got him to be able to go to Australia over the years and things like that, because he learned how to work the trade.
What do you think of sprint car racing present?
I think it's just as good as it ever was. We've got some young guys. DJ Neto's bad fast right now. Dominic Selby, Corey Eliason. There's a couple more. Carson Macedo, who just won the King of the West last year. He's a really young kid, and now he's racing for Keith Coons back east in the midgets. So I think our sport, the young people bode well for our sport. So I think it's going to continue to grow and be just as exciting as it ever was.
What do you think will happen in the future for sprint car racing?
I can see more of the World of Outlaws kind of separating themselves and kind of becoming their own entity, where right now, we can race with the World of Outlaws. Your dad and I could build a sprint car and join the membership and go race with the World of Outlaws. And I kind of eventually can see that they're trying to make it to where only the Outlaws are racing the Outlaws, so that it's more of an event, like going to a NASCAR race.
Oh.
You and I can't just build a Sprint Cup car and go Sprint Cup racing, even if we had the money. But and I think that's where the Outlaws want to head.
Well, you now officially at Cycleland Speedway. How did that all come about?
I was looking for something to do on Saturdays. I had some health issues come up, so I couldn't really travel and do the sprint car thing like I had been doing. So I talked. Lowell Morale and I have been friends for a lot of years, and I was just thinking of something to do, and I asked Lowell if he needed some help, and it just worked out perfectly. He said, "Why, yes, I do." And I was thinking I was gonna maybe be the gate guy or something. And lo and behold, Lowell says, gets me out there and says, "You're the director of competition. I want you to run the show per se." And that's been really fun. I didn't think I enjoyed it as much as I did when the season was over last year. I really kind of thought about it and like, man, that was a lot of fun. And I love watching the races.
What do you like about being director of competition?
Well, first of all, I feel like, other than the flagman, I feel like I have the best seat in the house to watch the races. I get to see the real future of auto racing. There's some kids out there that are absolutely incredible, and they're going to be there for a few years. And I don't know. I think it's an opportunity to try to give these kids some structure for maybe to learn some etiquette, racing etiquette, the do's and don'ts that maybe not apply to the go-kart racing per se, but if they want to move up into sprint car racing, that's the things they're going to have to do, and the way they're going to have to act to be successful in sprint car racing.
Did you ever want to race? I know you've been a crew chief for plenty of years, but have you ever thought about strapping into a sprint car or an outlaw cart?
Well, I'm too fat for either one of them. But,
you're not that fat. You're a good size.
I raced one time, well, twice. I've raced twice in my life, but one night, back in when we raced stock cars back in the early 90s, I raced the stock car one night, and absolutely, it was cool, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I just didn't. I'd rather work on it, and I get more pleasure out of working on it.
What are your plans for 2016? You were talking about Forsberg and Cycleland. Do you have anything else on the agenda for 2016?
Right now, I don't have anything on the agenda. My obligations are to Andy Forsberg with his 92 car, the A&A Stepping Stone car, at Friday night Chico shows, and then Cycleland on Saturday nights. I wouldn't miss Cycleland for the life of me. I actually really, like I said, I really enjoy that, and I think personally that as much as I love sprint car racing, I think that's the best racing around that you can see.
Yeah, you're exactly like me. I hate to miss Cycleland.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
What do you like to do outside of racing?
Now that's probably the toughest question you could ask me. Let's see. What do I like to do outside of racing? I like to watch my race monitor on my iPhone to see what other races are going on around the country. I like to watch the NHRA drag races and an occasional cup race to see if there's a few cup races I like to watch, like Bristol and stuff, to see how Larson does. Yeah, so there's not much outside of racing other than talking to my kids, maybe go camping once in a while. But that's few and far between to be able to do that and not miss a night at the races.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, buddy. It was a great time.
Today's show has been presented by Kimball Midwest, Pedersen Motorsports, Kevin Shera Designs, the CPOA, Shad Trucking, Roberto Marquez Attorney at Law, and the Auden family. Thank you for watching and tune in next time.